All right, guys, welcome to this episode of what worked for us in terms of becoming more attractive to women and attracting hot girls.
Let me rewind back. I think I really want to provide something that I think was very useful for me, and hopefully some of you guys out there. I was thinking back in terms of actually having some limiting beliefs, because at least where I grew up, I think you and I both grew up in like communities that were there were a lot more Asians than anyone else.
Totally.
And so, yeah, like a lot of the friends that we had were Asian, and the women that we dated are Asian. And then, so there was a time where I was like, oh, I wonder what it's like to date outside my race. Um, but I really had this self-limiting belief of, can I even do that? Would they even find me desirable? And honestly, because I mean, you probably thought. I mean, for me, I thought when I looked at another Caucasian girl, I thought, why would she find me attractive? She probably finds that other Chad more attractive. That's what she imagines. Um, that's who she wants to be with, and who she should be with. Like, why would she want to be with me? It doesn't make any sense, right? Did you ever feel like that, or?
I did. I definitely felt like, it reminds me. In a different video that we have, I talked about how my white girl moment of me wanting to date outside my race, including white girls, was when I was in Scottsdale. But some of these girls look like very prototypical American girls, right? And I was like, why would they want to date an Asian guy, especially?
Like cheerleader, blonde.
Yeah, like the college blonde party girl or something like that. And I was just like, why would they? I had no experience with it either, so.
And the thing was, it wasn't like I felt like this when it came to an Asian girl.
Yeah.
I didn't look at her and be like, why would she want to be with me?
Yep.
And I think there are men that feel like that need to work on confidence in general. For me, it was largely like, why would this person that was not Asian? That was the biggest factor. And so for me, what actually works, that kind of helped me change my mentality was I realized you're a product of your environment, and that I was thinking back because I had this friend. She was Asian, but because she grew up in NorCal, she was around all white people, and she was very comfortable around white people. Um, in fact, she really only hung out with white people, and I was like one of her first Asian friends. It was like a reverse, right? And so, thinking about that, I realized like, well, okay, if I grew up in an area that had all white people, maybe I might be more comfortable with non-Asian people too. I mean, I could also turn out to be completely awkward as well, but that's not the point of this. But so what I did was I went on YouTube and I found a bunch of interracial couples where the guy was Asian and the girl was like white or Hispanic or something else. And then I just subscribed to all their channels and watched all their videos. And that was one of the first things that I did because I wanted to deprogram my mind and show myself that this was possible. In fact, it existed all around me. And I just watched like hundreds and hundreds of hours. I would just leave it on the background while working and just learn about these people's lives and how they got together. And like after a while, I realized that it kind of made me believe a little bit more. And I started looking out for a couple, like, oh, there's a couple. I mean, it's still few and far between. But at least in my head, it was like, oh, this exists. And there are many examples in my head. As opposed to previously, I couldn't think of really anybody because my social circle didn't really exist.
Yeah, totally.
So that was, I think, a huge first step for me, even though a lot of it was just mental. I didn't go out and do anything. What about you?
I would say there was that. There was a big part is challenging your beliefs. So we're talking about what makes Asian guys attractive, and I know we're kind of niching into like why you would think someone outside of your race would date you. But I would say always challenge your beliefs because you'll be surprised. There were times actually, going back to the Arizona example, I remember talking to this like 5'11" Hispanic girl. She's beautiful, right? And she was like really into Asian guys. Now I had really bad game back then, so I fumbled the bag, as the Gen Z people would say. But it surprised me. I was like, oh, I didn't know she'd be into me. And the more you challenge your beliefs, the more you will find out that you're probably more attractive than you think you are. Especially if you're on a self-development journey. I'm assuming most people watching this are that type of guy. So you might be surprised at who would like you. So challenge your beliefs is one. But number two, and I know you have a lot to comment on this, is just become better looking in the way of fashion, but
Just
also
grow taller.
just easy.
Just be 6 feet tall.
Just be it's easy. Why is it so hard? Well, we're both like 5'8". But I would say working out helps a lot, especially as an Asian guy. I'm not saying you have to do it, but I would highly, highly recommend you because you know, we do have a beauty center in the U.S. where women, generally speaking, prefer guys who are more built. Obviously, there are extremes, which I don't recommend you go to unless you want to. But if you look better, if you're more ripped, you have more muscle mass. That's when I noticed more like women. I was about to say more guys, but more women actually like noticing me, right, and being like more attracted to me and making things easier because that's actually when I started working out. That's when I noticed more women actually were into me and things became easier. So just make sure you like work out because the better you look, actually, the easier things become. And I'm sorry to say that our society, in a way, at least at first glance, it is superficial.
Yeah.
So
And I want to comment on that working out portion because, well, let's talk a little bit about why I think
hmm
that happens. Um, I I think we can both agree that Asian men, at least as of 2023, um, while it's changing, traditionally in the past we've had a reputation of being weak, timid, short,
hmm
having small penises, being smart, being good at math,
hmm
right? Being bad drivers, and but so we have these certain like stereotypes that are put on us. Some are positive, some are negative, like wealthy, successful, hardworking. Um, but being weak, I think quiet and shy is one of them.
hmm
Like Asian men aren't typically known for being badass, uh, assertive, dominant, strong. Um, Ironically, we're also known for having knowing kung fu, which is like just anyway,
That's
it
silly,
just
yeah,
doesn't make any sense. Yeah,
yeah.
but working out, I think, kind of when somebody walks in and they are jacked
hmm
and they have, let's say, tattoos and they're 6 feet tall and um, they have all these like scars. I'm like, even if they are Asian and you have these other stereotypes, these other physical um, cues are way stronger than them being Asian, right? If they had all these attributes of being like just benching 300 pounds, like you wouldn't be like, oh, that guy's still weak because he's Asian. You'd be like, holy crap,
Yeah.
this fool is one big Asian dude. And like I think people subconsciously also need to throw in the Asian thing because it's like, oh, Asian people aren't normally like that.
hmm
And so I need to throw in the extra adjective of him being Asian because wow, on top of that, he's like so much bigger than typical Asian people are. Anyway, which is something that I think is really interesting because when I was in Finland, a girl was saying, I don't know what you mean. Like Asian guys are small and weak in America. Here, all Asian guys that I know, they have a reputation for being fit and buff. At least all the guys that I know.
And now all the Asian guys in the comments are going to Finland.
Yeah, yeah.
Fair enough.
But like the interesting thing is like, can you imagine if Asian, all of us Asian guys banded together and we're like, hey, let's all get together and get jacked and start a new reputation for ourselves, a new stereotype. And because I think stereotypes usually fade within 2 to 3 generations, you can usually completely wipe out an entire stereotype. And I think this whole small penis, weak, like shy Asian male stereotype has gone on long enough. And I think as Asian guys, we need to put a stop to that crap
hmm
and like just work on ourselves and change it. And if there were like model looking Asian dudes that were jacked walking around your school, like this whole thing about oh Asian like that would not exist anymore.
Yeah.
Like all the Asian guys, right, were walking around your high school and they were all fit and they were all jacked. Like no one would be saying, "Oh, Asian guys are like there would be a thing like instantly."
I do want to comment on this. So there is both a micro and macro aspect. Like the micro thing is like to work on yourself, right?
Yeah.
And I agree with that. A lot of guys will say in a macro sense, in terms of the environment, isn't it unfair how Asian guys have to specifically all be jacked to overcome the stereotype? And I think
Yeah.
it is true. It is unfair. But I do think it's almost like a two-pronged approach we can take. Start with yourself, but it's not only yourself that matters in the grand scheme of things in terms of changing the stereotype. But do start with yourself. And meanwhile, we have a lot of Asian activists that continue to try to push for better representation of Asian guys. So I think when you do these two things in parallel, overall the results, decades down the road would really pay off.
Yeah. Jeremy, I'm glad you made that point out because nowhere are we saying that this is so one-dimensional that you need to be jacked in order to be attractive. I mean, the two of us, we have never really come out and have made blanketed 100% statements like that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're watching this and you're constantly feeling the need to comment and say, well, what about this? What about that? Yes, there are exceptions to virtually everything that we're saying.
Yeah.
Are people who drink too much water. It can be good for you. It can be bad for you. There are people who eat too much meat. It can be good for you. It can be bad for you. There are people who eat no meat. It can be good for you. Just about everything in the world, almost everything in the world, even that statement.
Yep.
Almost every single statement. Almost every single statement. I can't even say. There are always nuances. So can we please just put aside all the asterisks and all the little footnotes of except for this rule, except for that 1 out of 500 people. Like yes, the right. We are not saying
that comment.
It's exhausting, really.
Yeah, I think in today's day and age, you have to always defend yourself. There's gonna be that guy. I'm a 5'3" Asian guy who's fat, and I pull all the bitches.
Yeah, in today's age,
what you're saying is toxic masculinity.
Yeah, no, we are not like yes, can be arguments made on both sides. Like it is exhausting talking to people like that who need to bring up. Well, I have one friend who's a friend of a friend who knows this. One guy who's talking like, yeah, okay, dude. What about like that is also not to deny this other huge group of people's experiences. I'm sure your experiences exist too, and there are other people's experience. We're not invalidating anyone's experience. We're just talking about this one perspective, and we can also talk about this other perspective. Both existing, one does not negate the other. Anyway, that's a side tangent.
Yeah, it's funny you're saying we're not going to invalidate your existence. I want to say unless you're annoying.
Unless you're annoying, then you're invalidating.
Then just stop.
Yeah.
But
well, let's not forget this is YouTube and social media, and there are going to be people who can't hold two opposing ideas at once. They can only hold one because
everything must be black and white.
Because it's black. It's because it's YouTube and people can only think in black and white. Anyway. You gotta think in gray, guys. Think in gray. Anyway.
How many shades of gray? but yeah, on
49.
your 49, not 50, because now we're going to housewife territory. But yeah, I think there's things that will help. Working out definitely does help because it does contrast against the stereotypes. That is just reality, right? A lot of times people like when they comment, they come from like the social climate, social justice warrior sphere, and we're all for social justice, right? Because obviously we're trying to advance Asian male representation. But there's also the reality of the situation is there needs to be work. There's work to be done in terms of how people perceive Asian guys, especially in a dating sense, in terms of the masculinity sense. And at that point in time, the thing that you can do is you can help be part of the change, also work alongside the Asian American activists that are trying to change the stereotype and have better Asian man representation in the U.S. media.
Right. And because I mean, I think it's hard to deny. And I think there's a report that was released recently, the 2022 Asian American report, that that was talking about how a vast majority of people, like we're not in the limelight. Most people can't name any Asian celebrities other than Jackie Chan. I think it's like 3 or 4%. Very, very single-digit percentages of people that can name Asian celebrities. So these stereotypes do exist. There isn't equal representation. I think the vast majority of minorities would at least agree on that. There isn't equal representation. So because of that, we often have these labels. And working out is kind of an easy. It's simple, but it's not easy.
Yep.
Way to immediately change some of these impressions, right? So when you walk into a room and you see the football team versus like the math
The speech and debate team.
speech and debate. Yeah, like
You know, oh my gosh, you're
yeah,
gonna debate me to death.
yeah.
I'm
No,
so
like God
intimidated.
damn, those guys are so sexy. Um, but I mean, but again, need to add a footnote there. Not to say that some people don't have a thing for the geeks and the nerds and the speech debate team. Of course, there are some people trying that too. You always need to have these string or yeah, but we are saying that one easy way to immediately have presence and to come across as quote unquote alpha is to work out and have style, do your hair, and for those people who don't know where to start, grow out your hair, go to a barber and ask him, and maybe do a little bit of research on like what kind of style that you're trying to go for. Show them what you like,
Hmm.
and ask them. And you might have to go through two or three different hairstyles and ask your female friends. Don't just ask any female friend. I would say
As your hot female friends,
ask the kind of female friends that might find that you might want to date. Um,
or are secretly trying to date.
yeah. So and obviously work on your style. I think
Hmm.
that goes a long way.
Totally.
Just and I think I personally underestimated the power of hair.
Oh
Like you
yeah,
said, yeah,
like growing a hair and beard. Not every Asian guy can grow a beard, but like hairstyle, man,
yeah,
that plays a big role. Like I don't know if you guys have seen the recent Netflix series called Beef with Steven Yeun. Like he looks like a fucking loser with his hairstyle, man. I'm just like,
yeah.
but in the other like stuff he's in where he has more of a suave hairstyle, like
If you want to
there's
describe his haircut real quick for those people who haven't
it
watched
is
it,
just like
we're not gonna give any spoilers,
yeah,
but
it's not a buzz cut, but okay. The best way I could describe it is it grows out to like 1 inch. And imagine if you have a friend or yourself, you cut your own hair,
yeah,
and it's the same like
yeah. It's like
distance across,
imagine if you shaved your head and you just grew it out like
like a
half an inch
half an
or an
inch,
inch,
and it's
and it's
all
just the same distance, or even his sideburns,
yeah.
everything's. He just yeah,
That's the person where you look at him and you're like, yeah, he's
yeah,
struggling.
yeah. No fade or no nothing. It's just
Yeah,
like the same
no
distance
fade.
across the whole thing. And yeah, he looks
He looks like a loser. Not to be
yeah,
mean, but like it looks like a guy who's down on his luck, gets no girls,
yeah,
just is struggling and is angry.
yeah. As opposed to even his little brother in the show,
Yeah, as
who has a
well.
brother who has a better haircut. He
Better
looks
style, a
yeah,
little bit more swag.
yeah. And so, but like you imagine like him in that show, Steven Yeun
Yeah.
in the show with that haircut. Even if you put him in a suit
Oh,
and like, but then you look from the bottom up, and then you see his face and that haircut, it just ruins everything. So I think I underestimated. I used to work out a lot,
yeah.
and I was in really good shape, but I wore glasses and I had a really bad haircut. And not saying that you can't pull it off. I mean, there's some guys that still do. I think if I were of a different ethnicity, but you know what? I already had that negative Asian stereotype working against me in college, and on top of that, I was an engineer. So I was it kind of didn't make sense. Like it was like I was like almost like a Buddha's face, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, don't make it more difficult for yourself is what we're saying. Like just
yeah,
work on yourself, fashion, style, haircut, glasses or contacts, work on your body, work on your personality. But is there anything else that you think would really help guys based on your personal experience? Because we've kind of talked we
mm,
covered like the outside aspect of things, like the appearance aspect, but
one more outside thing.
yeah.
That's technically on the inside because when you open your mouth, your teeth.
Oh yeah.
I think hygiene is really important. I don't think a lot of guys pay attention to their nails, their breath, their nose hairs,
Hmm.
like cleaning up their eyebrows. These little things. I mean, look at these male models, right?
Hmm.
They usually don't have gray like yellow teeth,
Hmm.
hair coming out of their ears, unplucked unibrows. They
Yep.
usually like you look at these Gucci magazines and like Prada. These guys are usually pretty well manicured. We're not saying that you need to go and get a manicure or a pedicure. I mean, if you want, it's up to you. I don't.
I mean,
I don't.
you could get your eyebrows threaded. It
Yeah,
is
you
pretty
could
easy.
if you want. It's
Yeah.
2023,
Yeah.
right? But I am saying the hygiene portion is these little details. I mean, and in the past, I thought women don't really pay attention to it because I didn't pay attention to it.
They do.
But because they pay attention to themselves,
Yeah.
and in the same way that I mean, guys like cars stereotypically,
Hmm.
and we notice other guys' cars, and we'll notice a girl's car. It may not matter what car she drives, but I will say that I notice it. So she may not care, but if you notice something, you're gonna notice it on other people. If she notices something on herself, like her nails, she's gonna notice it on you. So she will notice because girls like shoes,
Hmm.
typically, not all, but she'll notice her. She likes her shoes. She's gonna notice your shoes. So not saying we need to go out and have you splurge all this money,
Yep.
but um, at least be average. And I think with that, Jimmy, would you agree that most guys can bring themselves up out of 10
I feel like
to
you
like
could
an 8?
I mean, honestly, you could get up to a 7 and 8, maybe
Maybe.
physically, and definitely maybe an 8, depending on other characteristics like money, status, confidence, and shit like that, right? So, there's like a saying, there's no ugly women, just poor women. I think it's also true for guys, right?
That's true.
There's no ugly men. Although I know some of you will say like, I really am ugly and I have no success, whatever, right? But
We gotta talk about that real quick before
yeah,
we wrap up this video.
yeah. But I think yeah, most guys, you are probably more attractive than you think you are, and your potential of attractiveness, you probably haven't maxed it out yet.
Yeah, well,
I,
real quick, you made an excellent point. For those people on this video who are thinking, well, Jeremy, you might be able to grow facial hair and be 5'8", but I'm 4'5", I'm bald in everywhere except my back.
I like how you said 5'8", like it was so tall. You were able to be five
You're
eight
able
because
to be five
women
eight.
desire five
Yeah,
eight
we're
men.
not. Neither of us are 6 feet tall, dude.
Yeah,
Like
we're actually
we,
yeah we're 5'8", so
yeah, we're fairly average in America here,
yep.
and but nobody was born with like a 10-inch dick or anything like that. Like we, except for Jerry, maybe you're born with that facial hair. I can't really imagine. But
Yeah, we had to start shaving at an early age.
yeah, I mean, when I grow out facial hair, you can already tell like it doesn't grow all the way. So after about the fourth or fifth day, I look like Confucius.
Yep.
So, but what would you say to those guys who just have every single aspect? I mean, would you say that's a self-limiting belief? Or would you say,
I would say there is a reality as to how far you can take it for some guys, but I would say you owe it to yourself to try, like
yeah,
truly, because otherwise, this is more of a mindset thing, but people do gain something by remaining a victim. They gain the justification to not change,
yeah,
because change can be difficult, it can be confronting, it can be uncomfortable, and especially when it comes to dating, you're going to face a lot of defeat or a lot of like rejection, so to speak, right? So it's easier to just say like, oh, what's the point in trying if I'm not able to even get to like a 7 or 8, whatever that means, right? And I gotta say, man, like you owe it to yourself to try. The good thing about being a guy is that women are attracted to men, and there's multiple factors, right? For guys, usually it's like personality on the girl, but mainly looks. As you get older, it becomes more nuanced, obviously, right? But men are more visual, and that is true. But for women, usually it comes down to a very deep biological. Can this guy, protect me, provide for me, and all that good stuff, right? And I know some people will say like, oh, that's like red pill stuff, but I think there's a lot of ways to show that you'd be a good choice of a guy. It could be your personality, your social connections, it could be status. That may not be the healthiest thing to chase, by the way, but it could also mean like, improving yourself, having a business, taking care of your career, taking care of your health and fitness. So there's already a lot of different levers that you can pull as a guy versus for a girl, right? If a girl's not attractive, doesn't matter how good her personality is. I mean, I know guys, we would hook up with women below our normal, like, physical average that we care about, but in general, women are more limited in that sense. Obviously, beautiful women, they have their pick, whatever, all that stuff, right? But as a guy, you have multiple things that you can work on to make yourself more attractive. And to just give up before even really starting, or if you just give up after like starting for a little bit, you're really not taking care of yourself or not really seeing how far you can go.
right. And I do agree with that. I think if you were born shorter or have the wrong whatever, fill in the blank, um, to simply give up and just have a claim of victim mentality is kind of a sad thing. I think all of us in life were born with different advantages and disadvantages, and we were born with certain cards, and so all you can do is to maximize what you have. And so for for me, the example I keep thinking of is maybe you're shorter, but you're also successful, you're smart, you're funny, you're charismatic, you you're doing well in life, and you have a nice car, you have a house, and maybe it might take you a little longer with
Yep.
other people than the next guy who's born 6 feet tall and he's also rich and famous and
Hmm.
he's born into the right family. Sure, I agree. It's not fair. This whole thing's not fair. No, none of us are born on equal level playing fields. Um, but to just give up and complain and do nothing about things 10 years from now, of that complaining is not really going to get anybody anywhere. And so Jeremy and I both, we've acknowledged our weaknesses and we keep moving forward. And we both wish we were 6 feet tall, but we've acknowledged that, accepted the fact that we're not, and but we have plenty of things to complain about, and we could totally adopt the stance. And if 20 years ago we just were victims and complained all day long and didn't do anything, 20 years later we wouldn't be where we are today and having achieved anything. We'd be living in our parents' basements still and having bad haircuts like in Beef with Stephen Wren.
That's a terrible haircut,
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah. We
It's
go
so
anyway.
bad.
So um, make sure that you just keep moving forward and use that frustration to help fuel you
Yeah.
into what you want. Not saying you should go out and be angry at everyone, but
Yeah.
like maybe you need a jump starter.
Yeah, yeah. You use it as like fuel, right? Use that energy, change it around, use it as fuel. And then, like honestly, this is the way I also kind of viewed it, right? Imagine if you try your hardest and it still fucking sucks. Yes, move abroad. Because it is easier dating abroad in some ways, but you know, sometimes this is the thing I found also about like limiting beliefs. It's not always about limiting beliefs, but with limiting beliefs, sometimes you'll be surprised at how you can just be flat out wrong as to what women like or which women will like you.
Yeah.
Like truly, like you don't know until you really try it.
Dude, I really like what you're saying, and I think
Yeah.
we should end it there because to comment, I think what you're essentially saying is the world is big enough. The world is big enough for
Yeah.
everyone. You may not make it in New York as a stockbroker or a financial analyst.
Yeah.
You may not make it as a model or an actor in Hollywood, LA,
Mhm.
in the creme, like the hardest of the hardest places.
Yep.
But you know what? Some people go and not to knock, but some people don't make it to medical school here, and then they end up going to Puerto Rico and
Yeah.
the islands. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. There's still doctors. You can still make it, and if that's you, not a knock. But like, I'm not a doctor. You're doing better than me,
Yep.
and so the world is big enough for everyone, and to simply give up is, I think, we both agree, such a waste. And
Yeah, it's a way to save your life. You owe it to yourself to not give up. And we want the best for you. We're kind of like we're your peers in terms of age, or maybe your older brothers if you're like in your 20s. But we do really want the best for all our Asian brothers in the U.S.
yeah,
And we know you guys can do better than you're doing now if you're not happy where you're at.
yeah, I
Yeah,
agree with that. And so hopefully you guys gain something from this video. If you have any comments or if you still want to complain, feel free to comment below.
yeah.
Or
We're more than happy to read the comments, by the way,
yeah,
because I
we're
think
gonna
it's
go
a
through
yeah.
all of these comments. So like, subscribe, comment. It helps the algorithm know that you want to see more of our videos, and it also helps the channel so that we know that what topics you guys are interested in, so that we make more videos about these topics. So we hope you enjoyed this conversation. We're going to be having some more coming to you, but until then, we'll see you guys in the next video.